Good afternoon. Welcome to the RPI Players and this afternoon's performance of 1776. At this time, we kindly request that you turn off all cell phones and other electronic devices. We remind you that the use of flash photography is strictly prohibited throughout the performance. Also, please note that the aisles will be used during the performance, and we ask you to please keep them clear as much as possible. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please be aware that the fire exits are located at the front right and rear of the theater. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy the show.
One useless man is called a disgrace, that two are called a law firm, and that three or more become a Congress. By God, I have had this Congress. For 10 years, King George and his Parliament have gulled, cullied, and diddled these colonies with their illegal taxes, Tamp Acts, Townshend Acts, Sugar Acts, Tea Acts. And when we dared stand up like men, they stopped our trade, seized our ships, blockaded our ports, burned our towns, and spilled our blood. And still this Congress won't grant any of my proposals on independence, even so much as the courtesy of open debate. Good God! What in hell are they waiting for?
Sit down, John! Sit down, John! For God's sake, John! Sit down! Sit down, John! Sit down, John! For God's sake, John! Sit down! Why not open up a window? It's 90 degrees. Have mercy, John, please. It's
blood a simple fan, plagues of locust everywhere, or a cataclysmic earthquake I'd accept with some despair. But no, you sent us Congress. Good God, sir, was that fair? I say this with humility in Philadelphia, where your responsibility in Philadelphia. If you don't want to see us hanging on some foreign British hill, you don't want the voice of independence seen forever still, then God, sir, get thee to it, for Congress never will. You see, we piddle, whittle, and resolve, not a damn thing do we solve. Piddle, whittle, and resolve. Nothing's ever solved in foul, fetid, fuming, foggy, filthy Philadelphia.
Someone on the wall, open up a window.
Good God! They may sit here for years and years in Philadelphia. These indecisive grenadiers of Philadelphia. They can't agree on what is right or wrong, or what is good or bad. I believe the only purpose this Congress ever had was to gather here specifically to try John Adams mad. You see, we piddled, whittle, and resolved, not a damn thing do we solve. Piddled, whittle, and resolved. Nothing's ever solved in foul, fetid, fuming, foggy, filthy Philadelphia. Oh, Abigail, I have such a desire to knock heads together.
I know, dearest, I know. But that's because you make everything so complicated. It's quite simple, really. Just tell the Congress to declare independency. Then sign your name, get out of there, and hurry home to me. Our children know our dysentery, talking spreading through. The levy has the measles, the coming down with flu. They say we make it so close.
Madame, what else is new? Abigail, in my last letter, I told you the king had collected 12,000 German mercenaries to send against us. I asked you to organize the ladies to make saltpeter for gunpowder. Have you done as I asked?
No, John, I have not.
Why have you not?
Because you have neglected to tell us how saltpeter is made.
By treating sodium nitrate with potassium chloride, of course.
Oh, yes, of course.
Will it be done then?
John, I'm afraid we have a more urgent matter.
More urgent, madame.
There's one thing everyone is missing. Massachusetts Bay. Don't forget that you can go to your state. You do what I say. We've gone from serving camp to Boston. We cannot find a king. Don't you know there's a war on that each drifted with a grin? Well, we will not make no secret until you
Please, madam, saltpeter. 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 Heater. Heater. Heater.
Pin.
Done, madam, done.
Done, John. Hurry home, John.
As soon as I am able.
And don't stop writing.
Every day, my dearest friend. Till then, I am as I ever was and never shall be. Yours, 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 saltpeter. Franklin! Franklin! Where in God's name were you when I needed you?
Right here, John, being preserved for posterity. Do you like it?
It stinks.
As ever, the soul of tact,
The man's no Botticelli.
and the subject's no Venus.
Frank, you heard what I suffered in there.
Heard? Of course I heard, John, along with the rest of Philadelphia. Lord, your voice is piercing, John.
I wish to heaven my arguments were. Why, with one hand, they could raise an army, dispatch one of their own to lead it, and cheer the news from Bunker's Hill. But with the other, they waved the olive branch, begging the king for a happy and permanent reconciliation. Why, Fat George has already declared us in rebellion. Why in hell can't they?
John, you talk as if independence were the rule. It's never been done before. No colony has ever broken from the parent stem in the history of the world.
Damn it, Franklin, you make us sound treasonous.
Do I? Treason. Treason is a charge invented by the winners as an excuse for hanging the losers.
I've been going to do this, stand here listening to you quote yourself.
No, that was a new one.
Damn it, Franklin, we're at war!
To defend ourselves, nothing more. We expressed our displeasure, the British moved against us, and we in turn have resisted. Now our fellow congressmen want to effect a reconciliation before it becomes a war.
Reconciliation, my ass! The people want independence!
The people have read Mr. Paine's Common Sense. I very much doubt the Congress has. John, why don't you give it up? Nobody listens to you. You're obnoxious and disliked.
I'm not promoting John Adams. I'm promoting independence.
Evidently, they cannot help connecting the two.
Well, what are you suggesting?
Let somebody else in the Congress propose.
Never! Why? Who did you have in mind?
I don't know. I haven't given it that much thought.
You sent for me, Benjamin!
Never!
Hello, Johnny!
Richard.
Richard, John and I need some advice.
Oh, if it's mine to give, it's yours. You know that.
Thank you, Richard. As you know, the cause that we support has come to a complete standstill. Now, why do you think that is?
Simple, Johnny here is obnoxious and disliked.
That is true. What is the solution, I wonder?
Get someone else in Congress to propose.
Richard, that's brilliant. Wasn't that brilliant, John?
Brilliant.
Yes, and now the question remains, who can it be? The man we need must come from a delegation publicly committed to supporting independence. And at present, only Delaware, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire have declared our way.
And Virginia, Benji. Don't forget Virginia.
Oh, I haven't, Richard. How could I? But strictly speaking, while Virginia's views on independence are well known, your legislature in Williamsburg has never formally authorized its delegation here in Congress to support the cause. Now, if we could think of a Virginian with enough influence to ride down there and persuade the House of Burgesses...
Damn me if I haven't thought of someone.
Who?
Me.
Why didn't I think of that?
I'll leave tonight. Well, hell, I'll leave right now if you like. I'll just stop off at Stratford long enough to refresh the missus, and then it's straight to the matter. Virginia, the land that gave us our glorious commander-in-chief, George Washington, will now give the continent its proposal on independence. And when Virginia proposes, the South is bound to follow. And when the South goes, the middle colonies go. Gentlemen, a salute to Virginia, the mother of American independence.
Incredible. We're free and he hasn't even left yet. What makes you so sure you can do it?
Ha! My name is Richard Henry Lee, Virginia is my home. My name is Richard Henry Lee, Virginia is my home. And may my voices turn to blue if I can't deliver up to you a resolution on independency. For I'm the FFB, the family in the sovereign colony of Virginia. Yes, the FFB, the oldest family in the oldest colony in America. And may the British burn my land.
If I can't do it
if I can live as I said, resolution on independency.
Spoken modestly. God help us.
You will, John, you will. They say that God in heaven is everybody's God. I'll admit that God in heaven is everybody's God. But I tell you, John, with pride, God leaves a little on the side of the leaves of old Virginia. You see us here, there, and everywhere, here, there, everywhere. Look out! 'Tis awful Lee, Bobby Lee, and General that horse Harry Lee, Willie Lee, Jesse Lee, and Richard H. That's me. Hadn't made my blood stop running blue if I can't deliver up to you resolution on independency. Yes, sir, my God, it's here, there, come on, boys, join in with me. Here, there, when will you leave? Immediately. Here, there, when will you return? Shortly. Here, there, and I'll come back triumphantly. Here, there, everywhere, forward, ho, ha!
That was the most revolting display I have ever witnessed.
They're a warm-blooded people, Virginians.
Not him, Franklin. You. You with your infernal obsession for deviousness. If you'd come straight out and asked him, he'd have been gone half an hour ago.
Cheer up, John. Once again, our cause is riding high, sitting straight in the saddle, and in full gallop for Virginia.
And our women are serene, full bosomed,
Full bosom?
full bosomed, Benji. Have you won a queen? Why, they are Lees, damn it, Lees of old Virginia. Yes, sir, by God, it's here, barely. Come on, John, step loudly. Here, there, everywhere, forward.
Yes?
I'm Dr. Lyman Hall, new delegate from Georgia.
Andrew McNair, Congressional Custodian. If you be need anything, just holler out McNair, as you'll see the others do. You won't be waiting long.
Oh, where does the Georgia delegation belong?
Oh, they mill out over in that corner near the two Carolinas.
It's after 10. I was told Congress convenes at 10.
They'll be wondering any time now. We'll go breaking gussling with that.
Oh.
McNair!
Breaking guts.
That's Nero.
Mr. Hopkins, you'll be pleased to meet Dr. Lyman Hall.
I don't need a doctor, damn
New
it.
delegate from Georgia.
Well, why didn't you say so? I'm Stephen Hopkins, old delegate from Rhode Island. McNair, make that 2 runs.
I fear it's a little early in the day.
Nonsense. Medicinal fat rum gets a man's heart started in the morning. Now, you being a doctor, I'm surprised you didn't know that. And speaking as the oldest man in Congress, I can
Benjamin
say
Franklin's older by a year.
rum. Now, tell me quick, doctor, where does Georgia stand on the subject of independence?
With South Carolina, of course.
Good morning, Daddy. Shake the hand of Dr. Lyman Hall from Georgia. Doctor, this here's Edward Rutledge from whichever Carolina he says he's from. God knows I can't keep him straight.
A pleasure, Dr. Hall.
Yo, so Mr. Rutledge.
And now you have met the long and short of us, because at 26 years, Daddy's the youngest one here.
Well, except for Ben Franklin.
Now! Go
Now tell me, where does Georgia stand on independence, Dr. Hall?
I'm here without instructions, Mr. Rutledge, able to vote my own personal convictions.
And they are
Personal.
Dr. Hall. The deep South speaks with one voice. It is traditional. Even more, it is historical. Ah, enter Delaware. Tria Junta in Una.
Speak plain, Rutledge. You know you can't follow none of your damn French.
Latin, Colonel McKean, a tribute to the eternal peace and harmony of the Delaware delegation.
Ah, what are you talking about, man? You know neither of you right to stand this for the war.
Gentlemen, please may I introduce to you Dr. Lyman Hall of Georgia, Mr. Caesar Rodney, George Reed, and Colonel Thomas McKean.
Where do you stand on independence, sir?
With South Carolina, it seems.
Well, I'll leave the doctor in your excellent company.
Tell me, sir, would you be a doctor of medicine or of theology?
Both, Mr. Rodney. Which one could be of service?
Well, by all means, the physician first. Then we shall see about the other.
I'll call at your convenience, sir.
I trust, Caesar, that after you're done converting the poor man to independence, you'll give the opposition a fair crack at
You're too late, John. Once I get him, they're gone.
Someone.
Dr. Lyman Hall of Georgia, Mr. John Dickinson, Pennsylvania.
An honor, sir.
Your service, sir.
Ah, Judge Wilson, forgive me, but how can anyone see you if you insist on standing in Mr. Dickinson's shadow? Mr. James Wilson, also of Pennsylvania.
Sir,
An honor, sir.
will you please get out of my way? Good morning, everyone.
Good Lord. Do you have the honor to be Dr. Franklin?
Yes, I do have that honor. Unfortunately, the gal accompanies the honor.
Been living too high again, eh, Pappy?
Stephen, I only wish that King George felt like my big toe all over.
Then yeah, fetch him a rum, and a pillow, too.
Well, Franklin, has that idiot Lee returned yet? I don't see him.
Softly, John. Your voice is hurting my foot.
One more day, Franklin. That's how long I'll remain silent and not a minute longer. That strutting popinjay was so damn sure of himself. He's had time to bring back a dozen proposals by now.
Tell me, James, how do you explain the strange monumental quietude that this Congress has been treated to these past 30 days? Has the ill wind of independence finally blown itself out?
If you ask me,
For
John,
myself, I must confess that a month free of this New England noise is more therapeutic than a month in the country. Don't you agree, James?
Mr.
Mr. Adams, pray look for your voice. It cannot be far. God knows we need the entertainment in this Congress.
Congratulations, John. You just made your greatest contribution to independence. You kept your flap shut.
One more day, Franklin.
Gentlemen, the morning's usual festivities concluded. I'll call this Congress to order. Mr. Thompson.
The Second Continental Congress meeting in the city of Philadelphia is now in session, 7 June 1776, the 380th meeting.
Sweet Jesus.
The Honorable John Hancock of Massachusetts Bay, President.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Mr. McNair. The stores of rum and other drinking spirits are hereby closed to the colony of Rhode Island for a period of 3 days.
John, you can't do that.
Sit down, Mr. Hopkins. You abuse the privilege. Chair takes this opportunity to welcome Dr. Lyman Hall of Georgia to this Congress and hopes he makes the best of it. My God, it's hot. Secretary, read the roll.
All members present with the following exceptions. Mr. Charles Carroll of Maryland, Mr. Samuel Adams of Massachusetts, Mr. Whitted of Georgia, Mr. George Wythe and Mr. Richard Henry Lee of Virginia, and the entire delegation of New Jersey.
I'm concerned over the continued absence of 1/13 of this Congress. Where is New Jersey?
Somewhere between New York and Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much. Have you heard anything, Dr. Franklin? Your son resides there?
Son, sir? What son?
the Royal Governor of New Jersey, sir.
As that title may suggest, sir, we are not in contact at present time.
Ah, yes. Well, the weather report, Mr. Jefferson of Virginia. Mr. Jefferson!
Present.
May we hear about the weather? As if it were speaking for itself.
87 degrees of temperature, 30.06 inches of mercury, winds from the southwest for the rest of the day, and tonight I'm leaving for home.
On business?
Family business.
Give her a flourish for me, young fella.
Yes, sir, I will.
Commander, Army of United Colonies in New York, dispatch number 1137.
Sweet Jesus.
The Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President, dear sir. It is with great apprehension that I have learned this day of the sailing from Halifax, Nova Scotia, a considerable force of British troops in the company of foreign mercenaries and under the command of General Sir William Howe. There can be no doubt that the destination is New York, for to take and hold the city and the Hudson Valley beyond would serve to separate New England from the other colonies, permitting both sections to be crushed in turn. Sadly, I see no way of stopping them at the present time, as my army is absolutely falling apart. My military chest is totally exhausted, my quartermaster has no food, no arms, no ammunition, and my troops are in a state of near mutiny. I pray God some relief arrives before the Armada, but fear it will not. Your obedient, G. Washington.
Mr. President,
Colonel McKeon.
surely we've managed to hold the gloomiest stand on the continent to the head of our troops. Those dispatches are the most depressing accumulations of disaster, doom, and despair in the entire
Colonel McKeon.
What?
It's too hot.
Oh, yes. I suppose so.
General Washington will continue wording his dispatches as he sees fit. Though I'm sure we all pray he finds happier thoughts to convey in the near future. Mr. Thompson, are there any resolutions?
Dr. Josiah Bartlett of New Hampshire.
Resolved that for the duration of the present hostilities, Congress shall discourage all types of extravagance and dissipation, elaborate funerals, and other expensive diversions, especially all horse racing.
I'm back, Johnny! Richard! We're pleased to see you.
News, Dickie boy, what news? Lee, is it finished?
First things first. Tom, where's Tom?
Tom! Your little bride wants to know.
What? When's he coming home?
I leave tonight.
Never mind that now. It's done.
Done? Why, certain. Mr. President, I have returned from Virginia with the following resolution. Resolved that these united colonies are, and of a right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that any political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved!
Massachusetts, second.
Yeah.
Resolution has been proposed and seconded. Chair will now entertain debate. Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. President, Pennsylvania moves, as always, that the question of independence be postponed indefinitely.
I'll second the motion.
George Wilson. It seems in your eagerness to be loved, you have forgotten that Pennsylvania cannot second its own motion.
Delaware. Second.
You would, you little weasel.
Motion to postpone has been moved and seconded. Secretary will record the vote.
On the motion to postpone the resolution on independency or proceed with the debate, all those in favor of debate signify by saying yea. All those in favor of postponement signify by saying nay. New Hampshire.
New Hampshire favors debate and says yay.
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, having borne the brunt of the king's tyranny.
stand surprised. We'll come back to Mr. Thompson.
Rhode Island passes.
While Connecticut has, until now, been against this proposal, our legislature has informed me that in the event that this was proposed by any colony outside of New England, Connecticut could not any longer withhold its support. Connecticut says yay.
Connecticut says yay. New York?
New York abstains, courteously.
New York abstains.
Courteously.
Absent, Mr. Secretary.
Oh, yes, New Jersey's absent. Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, for the 24th time, says nay.
Pennsylvania says nay. Delaware.
Delaware, as ever for independence, says yay.
Delaware says yay. Maryland.
Maryland would welcome independence if it were given, but is highly skeptical it can be taken. Maryland says nay.
Maryland says nay. Virginia.
Virginia, the first colony, says yay.
Virginia says yay. North Carolina.
North Carolina respectfully yields to South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Mr. President, while we in South Carolina have never seriously considered the question of independence, when a gentleman proposes it, attention must be paid. However, we in the Deep South have no cause for impatience at the present time. Now, if at some future date it should become the wish of all of our sister colonies to effect a separation, we will not stand in the way. But until then, we will wait and watch. The vote is nay.
South Carolina says nay.
North Carolina
Says nay. Yes, Mr. Hughes, I know. Georgia. Georgia.
Mr. Secretary, Georgia seems to be split right down the middle on this issue. The people are against it, well, I'm for it. I haven't quite yet decided whether representing the people means relying on their judgment or on my own. So, in all fairness, until I figure it out, I'd better leave a little towards that side. Georgia says nay.
Georgia says nay. Rhode Island, second call.
I'm coming. Hold your damn horses.
We're waiting on you, Mr. Hopkins.
Well, it won't kill you. You'd think Congress would have its own pisser. All right then, how's she stand?
5 for debate, 5 for postponement, 1 abstention, and 1 absence.
So it's down to me, is it? Well, I tell you, in all my years, I ain't never seen, heard, nor smelled an issue so dangerous it couldn't even be talked about. Hell yes, I'm for debating anything.
Give Mr. Hollins a roll. Get him the whole damn barrel if you want. Chair now declares this Congress a committee of the whole for the purpose of debating Virginia's resolution on independence. Mr. Dickinson.
Well now, Mr. Adams, you've got your way at last. The matter may now be discussed. I confess I'm a bit relieved. There's a question I've been itching to ask you. Why?
Why what?
Why independence, Mr. Adams?
For the obvious reason that our continued association with Great Britain has become intolerable.
To whom, Mr. Adams? To you. Well, then I suggest you sever your ties immediately. But please be kind enough to leave the rest of us where we are. Personally, I have no objection to being part of the greatest empire on the face of the earth, to enjoying its protection and sharing its benefits.
Benefits? What benefits? Crippling taxes, cruel repressions, abolished rights.
Is that all England means to you, sir? Is that all the pride and affection you can muster for the nation that bore you? For the noblest, most civilized nation on the face of this planet. You'll have us forsake Hastings and Magna Carta, Strongbow and Lionhearted, Drake and Marlborough, Tudors, Stuarts and Plantagenets, and for what, sir? Tell me for what? For you? Ha! Some men are patriots, like General Washington, and some men are anarchists, like Mr. Paine, and some men even are internationalists, like Dr. Franklin. But you, sir, are merely an agitator, disturbing the peace, creating disorder, endangering the public welfare, and for what? Your petty personal complaints? Your taxes are too high? Well, sir, so are mine. Come, Mr. Adams. If you have grievances, and I'm sure you have, there must be a gentler way of redressing them, short of revolution. That's what he wants. Nothing short of it will satisfy him. Violence, rebellion, treason. Now, sir, are these the acts of Englishmen?
Not Englishmen, Dickinson. Americans.
Here! No, sir! Englishmen!
Please, Mr. Dickinson, but must you start banging? How is a man to sleep?
Forgive me, Dr. Franklin, but must you start speaking? How is a man to stay awake? We promise to be quiet, Dr. Franklin. Everyone here prefers that you remain asleep.
If I'm to hear myself called an Englishman, I can assure you that I would prefer I remained asleep.
What's so bad about being called an Englishman? The English don't seem to mind.
Nor would I, were I given the full rights of an Englishman. But to call me one without those rights is like calling an ox a bull. He is grateful for the honor, but he'd much rather have restored what's rightfully his.
When did you notice they were missing, sir? Fortunately, the people of these colonies have a higher regard for their mother country.
Higher certainly than she feels for them. Never was a more valuable property so recklessly and carelessly managed than this entire continent by the British Crown. Our industry discouraged, our resources pillaged, and worst of all, our very character stifled. We're a new race here, Mr. Dickinson. Rougher, simpler, more enterprising, more violent, less refined. We're a new nationality, Mr. Dickinson. We require a new nation.
Yes, that may be your opinion, Dr. Franklin, but as I said, the people feel quite different.
What do you know of the people, Dickinson? You don't represent them, only your own interests. And that precious status quo you keep imploring for their good is nothing more than the eternal preservation of your own property.
Mr. Adams, you have the annoying talent of making such delightful words as property sound quite distasteful. In heaven's name, what is wrong with property? If you'll remember, many of us first came to these shores in order to secure such rights to property, and that we hold those rights no less dear than the rights you speak of.
So safe, so fat, so comfortable in Pennsylvania.
And what is independence but the private grievance of Massachusetts? Why is it Boston that always breaks the king's peace? My dear Congress, you must not adopt this evil measure. It is the work of the devil. Leave it where it belongs, in New England.
Brother Dickinson, New England has been fighting the devil for more than 100 years.
As it stands, Brother Sherman, the devil has been winning hands down. In fact, he's right here in this Congress. Don't let him deceive you. This is entirely his doing.
Just a minute.
It may bear Virginia's name, but it reeks of Adams. Adams, and more Adams. Look at him, ready to lead this continent down the path of fiery destruction.
Good God! Why can't you acknowledge what already exists? It has been more than a year since Concord and Lexington. We are at war right now.
You may be at war, Boston and John Adams, but you will never speak for Pennsylvania.
Nor for Delaware.
Mr. Reed, you represent only 1/3 of Delaware.
The sensible third.
Sit down, Yellow Roach, or I'll knock you down.
Sit down, all three of you. McNair, do something about these damn flies.
There, the rum is broke.
Get the flies first.
How's the rum?
I've only got 2 hands.
Christ, Richard's heart. Do go on, gentlemen. You're making the only breeze in Philadelphia.
Mr. Adams, perhaps you could clear something up for me. After we have achieved independence, who would govern in South Carolina?
The people, of course.
Which people, sir? The people of South Carolina or the people of Massachusetts?
Oh, don't be coy now, Daddy. You're against independence now, and you're always going to be.
Gentlemen, you refuse to understand us. We are for independence, yes, for South Carolina. That is our country, and as such, we don't wish it to belong to anyone. Not to England, and not to you.
We intend to be one nation, Rutledge.
A nation of sovereign states, united for our mutual protection, but separate for our individual pursuits. That is how we have understood it, and that is what we will support, as soon as everyone supports it.
There you have it, Mr. Adams. You must see that we need more time to determine who we are and where we stand with regard to one another. For if we do not determine the nature of this beast before we set it free, it will end by consuming us all.
For once in your life, Wilson, take a chance. I say the time is now. It may never come again.
Your clock is fast, Mr. Adams. I say we're not yet ripe for independence.
Not right? Hell, man, we're rotten for one of them.
Gentlemen, please. What in God's name is the infernal hurry? Why must this question be settled now?
What is wrong with now, Mr. Chase?
General Washington is in the field. If he is defeated, as it now appears, we'll be inviting the hangman. But if, by some miracle, he should actually win, well, we can then declare anything we damn well please.
The sentiments of North Carolina, precisely.
Has it occurred to either of you that an army needs something to fight for in order to win? A cause, a purpose, a flag of its own.
Here.
Mr. Adams, how can a nation of only 2 million souls stand up against an empire of 10 million? Think of its size, 10 million. How do we compensate for that shortage?
Simple, Mr. Chase. Increase and multiply.
We will more than compensate with spirit.
No, John,
I tell you, there's a spirit out there with the people that is sadly lacking in this Congress.
Oh yes, that's it. Why didn't I? Spirit. Here we are. No army, no aid, no navy, no arms, no ammunition, no treasury, no friends. But bless our soul, spirit. Mr. Lee, Mr. Hawkins, Mr. Rodney, Colonel McKean, Dr. Franklin, why have you joined this incendiary little man, this Boston Radical, this demagogue, this madman?
Are you calling me a madman? You fribble!
Oh, easy, John.
You and your Pennsylvania proprietors, you cool, considerate men. You sit at the back of every issue, so that if we should go under, you will remain afloat.
Are you calling me a coward?
Yes, coward, madman, landlord,
Closing in, cutting off our air. There's no time. No air. On the
Caesar! Dr. Wolf!
Colonel McKean,
Aye, it's the Count, sir.
we should go home.
Yes, man should die in his own bed. John,
I'm here, Caesar.
I leave you a divided Delaware. Forgive me.
I'll take you home, Caesar. I'll be back within a week.
Delaware, second.
Franklin, think of something.
Well, I am thinking. Nothing's coming.
The question has been called and seconded. Mr. Thompson.
All those in favor of Virginia's resolution on independence, please signify by saying
Oh, Mr. Secretary, would you please read the resolution again?
Seriously.
Well, I've forgotten it.
Oh, come next.
Thompson.
Resolved that these united colonies are, and of a right ought to be, free and independent states. That
I beg your pardon. I'm the Reverend John Witherspoon, the new delegate from New Jersey. Dr. Franklin, I regret to be the bearer of unhappy tidings, but your son, the royal governor of New Jersey, has been arrested. He's removed under armed guard to the colony of Connecticut for safekeeping.
Is he unharmed, sir?
When last I heard, yes, he was, sir.
Then why the long face? I hear Connecticut is an excellent location. Tell me, why did they arrest the little bastard?
The New Jersey legislature has recalled the old delegation to this Congress and sent a new one.
Quick, man. Where do you stand on independence?
Haven't I made that clear?
No!
Well, I suppose I haven't. But you see, that's the reason for the change. I've been instructed to vote for independence.
Mr. President, Massachusetts is now ready to proceed and reminds the President of its privilege to decide any vote that is deadlocked.
I won't forget, Mr. Adams. The chair welcomes the Reverend Witherspoon and appoints him congressional chaplain if he'll accept the post.
With much pleasure, sir.
all those in favor of the resolution on independence as proposed by the colony of Virginia, please signify by saying
Mr. President, Pennsylvania moves that any question on independence must be settled unanimously.
What?
I'll second the motion.
God Wilson!
Oh my God.
Delaware, second. Mr. President.
But no votes ever had to be unanimous, and you know it.
Yes, but this one must be.
On what ground?
On the grounds that no colony be torn from its mother country without its consent.
But it'll never be unanimous, damn it.
You say so, Mr. Adams.
it has been moved and seconded that the vote on independence must be unanimous in order to carry. All those in favor, please signify by saying yea.
Yay.
6 colonies say yea. Those against?
Nay.
6 colonies say nay.
Mr. Secretary, New York abstains courteously.
Mr. Morris, why must New York constantly abstain? Why doesn't New York simply stay in New York? Very well, the vote is tied. The principles of independence have no greater advocate in this Congress than its president. And that's why I'm forced to join those who vote for unanimity.
What? John, what are you doing? You've sunk us.
Now hear me out. Can't you see that any colony that opposes independence will be forced to join the fight on the side of England? That we'll be sending brother against brother? That our new nation will bear as its emblem the mark of Cain? I can see no other way. Either we walk together, or together we must stay where we are. So ruled. Johnson.
A unanimous vote being necessary to carry, if any be opposed to the resolution on independence as proposed by the colony of Virginia, please signify by saying,
Mr. President,
for heaven's sake, let me get through it once.
Massachusetts moves for postponement.
Postponement! Ha! I wish you the luck I had with it.
Well, Mr. Adams is right. We need a postponement.
On what ground?
On what grounds?
Mr. President, how can this Congress vote on independence without some sort of written declaration defining it?
What sort of declaration, Mr. Adams?
Oh, well, you know, stating the causes for the separation and our goals and our aims and so on and so forth, etc., etc.
Ditto, ditto.
Ditto, ditto.
We know those, don't we?
Well, good God, yes, we know them. But if we are to win this, we will need the aid of a powerful ally such as France or Spain. And such a declaration is fitting with the European sense of delicacy.
Come now, Mr. Adams. You'll have to do better than that. Answer straight. What would be its purpose?
Yes, well, you
To
see...
place before mankind the common sense of the subject, in terms so plain and firm as to command their assent.
Mr. Jefferson, are you seriously suggesting we publish a paper declaring that an illegal rebellion is, in reality, a legal one?
Mr. Dickinson, you should know that rebellion is always legal in the first person, such as our rebellion. It is only in the third person, their rebellion, that it is illegal. Mr. President, I second the motion for a postponement on the vote of independence for an amount of time sufficient for the writing of the declaration.
Motion to postpone has been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary.
All those in favor of the motion to postpone, please signify by saying yea.
Yea!
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 colonies say yea. Those opposed?
Nay.
4, 5. 6 colonies say nay.
Mr. Secretary, New York abstains.
Mr. Morris, what the hell goes on in New York?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, but the simple fact is the New York legislature has never sent us specific instructions on anything.
Never? That's impossible.
Have you ever been to a meeting of the New York legislature? Everyone talks very loud and very fast, and nobody pays attention to anybody, with the result being nothing ever gets done. I beg the Congress to pardon.
You have my sympathies, Mr. Morris. Vote again being tied, the chair decides in favor of the postponement. A committee will now be formed to manage the declaration, said document to be written, debated, and approved by the beginning of July, 3 weeks hence, at which point Virginia's resolution on independence will finally be voted. Is that clear?
Yes.
Very well. Will the following men serve on the Declaration Committee? Dr. Franklin, Mr. John Adams, Mr. Sherman, Mr. Livingston, and of course, Mr. Lee.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. President, but I must be returning to the sovereign country of Virginia, as I've been asked to serve as governor. Therefore, I must decline. Respectful, Lee.
Very well, Mr. Lee, you're excused. I suppose we could leave it a four-man committee.
Just a minute, Mr. President. This business needs a Virginian. Therefore, I propose a replacement. Mr. Thomas Jefferson.
Very well, Mr. Adams, Mr. Jefferson, sir.
home too to see my wife.
Oh,
no, that's not good.
Moved and seconded, and objections?
Yes, I have objections. I have love.
So,
Nobody cares, Tom.
All right, gentlemen, let's get on. Who is going to write our Declaration of Independence? Mr. Adams, I say you should write it. To your legal mind and brilliance we defer. Is that so? Well, if I'm the one to do it, though Buckingham is good, I'm obnoxious in this life. You know that, sir.
Yes, I do.
Then I say you should write it, Franklin.
Yes, you.
Hell no.
Yes,
you, Dr. Franklin. You ought.
Mr. Adams, but Mr. Adams, the things I write are only light extemporanea. I won't put politics on paper, it's a mania. So I refuse to use the pen in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, refuse to use the pen.
Mr. Sherman, I say you write it. You were never controversial, as it were.
That is true.
Where if I want to do it, the one that put pens through it, I'm obnoxious and disliked. You know that, sir.
Yes, I do.
Then I say you should write it, Roger. Yes, you.
Good heavens, no.
Yes, you, Roger Sherman. You must.
Mr. Adams, but Mr. Adams, I cannot write with any style or proper etiquette. I don't know a participle from a predicate. I am just a simple cobbler from Connecticut.
Connecticut, a simple cobbler.
He's obnoxious and disliked. Did you know that?
I hadn't heard.
Then I said you should write it, Robert. Yes, you.
Not me, Johnny.
Yes, you, Robert Livingston.
Mr. Adams, dear Mr. Adams, I've been presented with a new son by the postal, so I am headed home to celebrate if possible with all the Livingston's together back in New York.
New York, New York, Livingston is going to pound the door.
Mr. Adams, leave me alone. Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Adams, I beg you, I have not seen my wife in 6 months. And we solemnly declare to preserve our liberties, being with one mind to resolve to die as free men, rather than live as slaves. Tolstoy wasn't out of necessity of taking up arms. 1775. Magnificent! You write 10 times better than any man in Congress, including myself. For a man of only 33 years, you have a happy talent for composition and a remarkable felicity of expression. Now then, will you be a patriot or a lover? A lover? No, but I burn, Mr. A! So do I, Mr. J. You do? John, who'd have thought? Mr. Jefferson, dear Mr. Jefferson, I'm only 41, I still have my virility, and I can romp you, Cupid, grow with great agility, but life is more than sexual combustibility. Combustibility, combustibility, combustibility. Quiet! You will write it, Mr. J. Who will make me Mr. A? I. You. Yes. How? By sheer physical force, if necessary. It's your duty, damn it!
Mr. Adams, damn you, Mr. Adams. You're obnoxious and disliked, that cannot be denied. Once again you stand between me and my lovely bride. Lovely bride. Oh, Mr. Adams, you are driving me to homicide. Homicide!
Damn the man. God damn it.
Jefferson! Have you finished it, man? You've had a whole week. Is it done? Can I see it? There comes a time in the lives of men when it is necessary to advance from that subordination in which they have hitherto remained. This is terrible. Where's the rest of it then? Do you mean to say it's not finished?
No, sir. I mean to say it's not yet begun.
Not a whole week. The entire earth was created in a week.
Someday you must tell me how you did it.
Disgusting. Look at him, Virginia's most famous lover.
Virginia abstains.
Cheer up, Jefferson. Get out of the dumps. It'll come out all right in the end, I promise you. Now, get back to work. Franklin, tell him to get to work.
He's asleep.
Why, hello there. Little girl are you? John, who is she?
His wife, I hope.
What makes you say that?
Because I sent for her.
You what?
It simply occurred to me that the sooner his problem was dealt with, the sooner ours was.
Good thinking, John, good thinking.
Madame, allow me to present myself. I'm Adams. John Adams. Mr. John Adams. And this is Dr. Franklin, inventor of the stove. Jefferson, will you kindly present me to your wife? She is your wife, isn't she?
Of course she is. Look at how they fit. Come along, John, come along.
Come along where? There's work to be done.
Ha! Obviously.
You mean they? They're going to. In the middle of the afternoon.
Not everyone's from Boston, John.
Incredible.
Well, good night, John.
Wait a minute, Franklin. Have you eaten yet?
Not yet, but
I hear the turkey's fresh with a bunch of grapes.
I have a rendezvous, John. I'd invite you along, but talking makes her nervous.
Incredible. Oh, Abigail. I'm very lonely, Abigail.
Are you, John? As long as you were sending out for wives, why didn't you send out for your own?
Don't be unreasonable, Abigail.
Oh, now I'm unreasonable. You should add that to your list.
List?
The catalog of my thoughts were included in your last letter.
They were fondly intended, madame.
That I play at cards badly.
A compliment.
That my posture's crooked.
An endearment.
That I read, write, and think too much.
An irony.
That I'm pigeon-toed.
Ah. Well, there you have me, Abigail. I'm afraid you are pigeon-toed. Come to Philadelphia, Abigail. Please come.
Thank you, John. I do want to, but you know it's not possible right now. The children have the measles.
So you wrote in your last letter, Abby and little Tom.
Only now it's Quincy and Charles. It seems that the farm here in Braintree is failing, John. All the chicken and geese have died, and the apples will never survive the
Oh, fit for Virginians, madame, but pale, puny things compared to New England girls.
John, I thank you for that.
How goes it with you, Abigail?
Not well, John. Not well at all. I live like none in cloister, solitary, celibate, I hate. And you, John?
I live like a monk in an abbey. Ditto, ditto, I hate it.
Lie to me with sentimental illusion. Let me revel in romantic illusion.
Do you still smell of vanilla and spring air? And is my favorite lover's pillow still firm and fair?
What was there, John? Come as soon as you can to my cloister. I've forgotten the feel of your hair.
Soon, madam, we shall walk through Cupid's grove together, and love only survey that promised land. Till then, I am as I ever was and ever shall be. Yours, 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 St. Peter, John.
Sorry to be late, John. I was up till all hours. Have you been here long?
No, not long.
What are you doing down here? I expect you to be up there, cracking the whip.
The lights are still out.
Oh, my word, so they are. Well, as the French say...
Oh, please, Franklin, spare me your body line first thing in the morning. Dare we call?
A congressman dares anything. Go ahead.
Me?
Your voice is more piercing.
Perhaps we better come back later.
Why?
Well, it's positively indecent.
No, John, they're young and they're in love.
Not them, Franklin. Us! Standing out here, waiting for them to... I mean, what will people think?
It's no matter. The history books will clean it up.
I won't be in the history books anyway. Only you. Franklin did this. Franklin did that. Franklin did some other damn thing. Franklin smote the ground, and out sprang General Washington, fully grown and on his horse. Franklin then electrified him with his miraculous lightning rod, and the three of them, Franklin, Washington, and the horse, sprang away and conducted the entire revolution by themselves.
I like it. Look at her, John. Just look at her.
I am.
She's even more magnificent than I remember. Of course, we didn't see much of her front last night. Good morrow, madam.
Good morrow.
Is it the habit in Philadelphia for strangers to shout at ladies from the streets?
Not at all, madam.
And
But
for
we're not.
men of your age, not only is it unseemly, it's unsightly.
Excuse me, madame, but we met last evening.
I spoke to no one last evening.
Well, indeed you did not, but still we presented ourselves. This is Mr. John Adams, and I am Dr. Benjamin Franklin, inventor of the stove.
Please, I know your names very well, but you say you presented yourselves.
Your thoughts were well taken elsewhere.
My husband is not yet up.
Shall we start again? Please join us, madam.
Oh, yes, of course.
No wonder the man couldn't write. Who could think of independence married to her? not anyway.
I'm not idle flatterer, Dr. Franklin. My husband admires you both greatly.
Then we are doubly flattered. We admire very much that which your husband admires.
Did you sleep well last night, madame? Oh, I mean, did you lie pleasantly? Oh, damn, you know what I mean.
Yes, John, we do. Please tell us, madam, we've had precious little information about you. What's your name?
Martha.
Ah, Martha. You might at least have told us that. I'm afraid your husband doesn't say very much.
He's the most silent man in Congress. I've never heard him utter 3 sentences together.
Not everyone's a talker, John.
It's true, you know. Tom is not a talker. Oh, he never speaks his passions. He never speaks his views. Whereas southern men speak volumes, the man I love is mute. In truth, I can't recall being moved with words at all. Even now.
How did he win you, Martha? And how does he hold on to a bounty such as you?
Well, surely you know Tom is a man of many accomplishments. Author, lawyer, farmer, architect, statesman. And still one more I hesitate to mention.
Don't hesitate, madame. Don't hesitate.
Yes, what else can that red-headed tombstone do?
Plays the violin. He tucks it right under his chin. And he blows, oh he blows, for he knows, yes he knows, that it's high, 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 tis high, heart's love is little, and devilry. I am unstrung.
The violin, madam?
I hear his violin and play it at the and I sigh, oh I sigh. He draws near, ever near, and it's high, 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 my strings
That settles it, John. We're taking up the violin.
All right, madame. You've got us playing violin. What happens next?
Next, Mr. Adams.
Yes, what does Tom do now?
Why, just you'd expect. We dance.
Dance?
Incredible!
something. Dear Mr. Adams, I am taking my wife back to bed. Kindly go away. Incredible.
Perhaps I'm the one who should have written it after all. At my age, there's little doubt that the pen is mightier than the sword. For it's high, 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 diddle, diddle. And God bless the man who can fiddle.
And independency.
Through eternity, plays the violin.
And what follows is a complete list of the committees of this Congress, now sitting, about to sit, or just having sat. Committee formed to investigate a complaint made against the quality of yeast manufactured at Mr. Henry Pemberton's mill, designated as the Yeast Committee. A committee formed to consider the most effective method of dealing with spies, designated as the Spies Committee. A committee formed to think, perhaps to do, but in any case to meet, to confer, to gather, to talk, and perhaps even to resolve that each rifle regiment be allowed at least one drum and one fife attached to each company, designated as the Drum and Fife Committee. A committee formed to...
Look at it, Doctor. Democracy. What Plato called a charming form of government, full of variety and disorder. I never knew Plato had been to Philadelphia.
There! Open that damn window!
Ben, I want you to see some cards I've gone and had printed out. Now, these ought to save us all a lot of time and effort, considering the, shall we say, the epidemic of bad disposition that's been going around lately. Now, here it says, you, sir, are, without any doubt, a rogue, a rascal, a villain, a thief, a scoundrel, and a mean, dirty, stinking, sniveling, sneaking, pimping, pocket-picking, thrice double-damned, no-good son of a bitch. And then he signed your name. What do you think?
Stephen, I'll take a dozen right now.
Committee formed to answer all congressional correspondence, designated as the Congressional Correspondence Committee. Committee formed to...
All right, Franklin, enough socializing. There's work to be done.
Good morning, John.
What? Oh, good morning, good morning. Now then, let's get to it.
Let's get to what?
Unanimity, of course. Look at that board. 6 nays to win over in little more than a week.
Committee formed to deal with the problem of counterfeit money, designated as the Counterfeit Money Committee.
All right, John, where do we start?
How about Delaware? It's a sad thing to see her on the wrong side after all this time. Is there any news of Rodney?
McKeon's back.
Thomas!
Committee formed to keep secrets, designated as the Secrets Committee.
How did you leave Caesar? Is he still alive?
Aye, but the trip in Dover was fearful hard. He never complained, but I could tell the poor man was suffering.
But you got him safely home.
I did, but I doubt he'll ever set foot out of it again.
That leaves you and Reed split down the middle. Will he come over?
I don't know. He's a stubborn snob.
Then work at him. Keep at him till you wear him down.
Ah, John, face facts. It was just Reed standing in our way. It wouldn't be so bad. But what for yourself? Maryland, Pennsylvania, the entire South? It's impossible.
It's impossible if we stand around complaining about it. To work, McKean. 1 foot in front of the other.
I believe I put it a better way. Never leave off till tomorrow that which you
shut up, Frank.
But what good will it do? You know Dickinson, he'll never give in. And we haven't heard the last of the Rutledge yet.
Never mind about them. Your job is George Reed. I don't care how you do it, but bring us back Delaware.
Well, there's a simpler way. This will break the tie.
Committee formed to study the causes of our military defeat in Canada, designated as the Military Defeat Committee.
All right, John, who's next?
How about Pennsylvania and Maryland? I suggest you get your own house in order while I take a Mrs.?
Please, Mr. Adams, not while I'm eating.
Mr. Wilson, it's time to assert yourself. When you were a judge, how in hell did you ever make a decision?
All of my decisions were based on legality and precedence. But there is no legality here, and certainly no precedence.
That's because it's a new idea, you clot! We'll be setting our own precedent.
No, Mr. McKeon. No, no, no!
Damn your eyes, Reed! You came into the world screaming no, and you're determined to leave it the same way!
How about it, Case? Congress is waiting. America is waiting. The whole world is waiting. What is that, liver?
Leave me alone, Mr. Adams. You're wasting your time. If I thought we could win this war, I'd be at the front of your ranks. But you must know it's impossible. You've heard General Washington's dispatches. His army is falling apart.
General Washington is exaggerating the situation to arouse this torpid Congress into action. But, as head of the War Committee, I can assure you that the Army has never been in better condition. Never have troops been so cheerful. Never has training been so spirited. Never has discipline and...
Mr. Adams.
Oh, good God.
Gentlemen, may we have your ears? Thompson has a dispatch.
From the Commander, Army of the United Colonies, in New York, dispatch number 1157. To the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President. Dear Sir, it is with the utmost despair that I must report to you the confusion and disorder that reign in every department. The Continental soldier is as nothing ever seen in this or any other century. He is a misfit, ignorant of hygiene, destructive, disorderly, and totally disrespectful of rank. Only this last is understandable as there is an incredible reek of stupidity amongst the officers. The situation is most desperate at the New Jersey training ground in New Brunswick, where every able-bodied whore has assembled. There are constant reports of drunkenness, desertion, foul language, naked bathing in the Raritan River, and an epidemic of the French disease. I have declared the town off limits to all military personnel, with the exception of officers. I beseech the Congress to dispatch the War Committee to this place in the hope of restoring some of the order and discipline we need to survive. Your obedient, G. Washington.
Ugh, the man could oppress a hyena.
Well, Mr. Adams, you're chairman of the War Committee. Do you feel up to whoring, drinking, deserting, and New Brunswick?
I'm sorry, there must be some kind of mistake. I have an aunt who lives in New Brunswick. You must tell her to keep up the good work. Come, Mr. Adams. You must see that it's hopeless. Let us disband the Continental Army and recall General Washington before we are overwhelmed.
Oh, yes. The English would like that, wouldn't they?
Why don't you ask them yourself? They ought to be here any minute.
And when they hang you, Mr. Adams, I do hope you'll put in a good word for the rest of us.
Face facts, Mr. Adams. A handful of drunk and disorderly recruits against the entire British Army, the finest musketmen on earth. How can we win? How can we even hope to survive?
Answer me straight, Chase. If you thought we could beat the Redcoats, would Maryland vote yea for independence?
Well, I suppose that...
No supposing. Would you or wouldn't you?
Very well, Mr. Adams. Yes, we would.
Then come to New Brunswick and see for yourself.
John! Are you mad?
You heard what General Washington said. It's a shambles up there.
And they are pushing you into it, Johnny.
Well, what do you say, Chase?
Go ahead, Sam. It sounds lively as hell up there.
All right. Why not? And maybe it'll be Mr. John Adams who comes to his senses.
Mr. President, the War Committee will heed General Washington's request. A party consisting of Dr. Franklin, Mr. Chase, and myself will leave at once.
Is that satisfactory with you, Dr. Franklin?
Wake up, Franklin! You're going to New Brunswick.
Like hell I am. What for?
More than the drinking.
All right, Chase, move all that lard. There's no time to lose. Left, right, left, right, left, right.
Mr. McNair, all this talk of independence has left a certain foulness in the air. My friends and I would appreciate it if you would open up some windows.
What about the flies?
The windows, Mr. McNair. Oh, say, do you see what I see? Conversing here in sweet serenity, I could cheer, the reason's clear. For the first time in a year, Adams isn't here. And look, the sun's in the sky, a breeze is blowing by, and there's not a single fly. I sing Hosanna, 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 Hosanna. And it's cool. Come ye cool, come servant men, whose like may never ever be seen again. We have land, cash in hand, self-command, future plan. Fortune thrives, society survives, in neatly ordered lives, with well-endowed wives. Come sing Hosanna, Hosanna, in our breeding and our manner, we are cool. Come ye cool, consider it set, we'll dance together to the same minuet. To the right, ever to the right, never to the left, forever to the right. Let our greed be never to exceed a regulated speed, no matter what the need. Come sing Hosanna, Hosanna, emblazoned on our banner is keep cool. Hands attached, tightly latched, everybody match.
I have a new dispatch from the commander of the United Colonies in New York. Dispatch number 1158. The Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President, dear sir. I woke this morning to find that General Howe had landed 25,000 British regulars and Hessian mercenaries on Staten Island, and that the fleet, under the command of his brother, Admiral Lord Howe, controls not only the Hudson and East Rivers, but New York Harbor, which now looks like all of London afloat. I can no longer, in good conscience, withhold from Congress my certainty that the British military object at this time is Philadelphia. Happy should I be if I could see the means of preventing them, but at present, I confess I do not. Oh, how I wish I had never seen the Continental Army. I would have done better to retire to the backcountry and live in a wigwam. Your obedient, G. Washington.
What we do rationally.
We never ever go off half, cock not we. Why begin till we know that we can win? And if we cannot win, why bother to begin?
We say this game's not of our choosing. Why should we risk losing? We cool man.
Mr. Hancock, you're a man of property. What of us? Why don't you join us in our minuet? Why do you insist on dancing with
Mr. Adams do not want.
But why, sir? For personal glory, a place in history? Be careful, sir. History will brand him and his followers as traitors.
Traitors to what, Mr. Dickinson? The British crown, the British half-crown. Fortunately, there are not enough men of property in America to dictate policy.
That may be, but you must remember that most men with nothing would rather protect the possibility of becoming rich than face the reality of being poor. And that is why they will follow us. To the right, and to the right, never to the left, forever to the right. Where there's gold, that will go, tradition that is old, we want to be bold. I sing Hosanna, Hosanna, in a sane and lucid manner. We are cool, we're the cool, but serious and whose life may never ever be seen ahead. We have land, cash in hand, self-command, future plan, and we'll hold to our goal, tradition that is old. We learn to be bold. We say this game's not our choosing. Why should we risk losing? We
So, how do you like to try a bar dollar for one of them? Another rum, General?
General, Lord, I ain't even a corporal.
Yeah, well, what's the army now? Sit down, gentlemen. The chair has rules. It is too damn hot to work. What's it like out there, General?
Oh, you probably know more than me.
Sitting here? Sweet Jesus, this is the last place to find out what's going on. Oh, you don't see them rushing off to get themselves killed, do you? But they sure are great ones for saying others, I'll tell you that.
Who sits here?
Caesar Rodney out of Delaware. Where are you from, General?
Watertown,
Where's that?
Massachusetts.
Ah, well, you'll be wanting to sit down here. But be careful, there's something special about that chair that makes a man awful noisy.
So boy, you seen any fight?
Sure did. I seen my two best friends get shot dead on the very same day. Right on the village green it was, too. And when they did come home for supper, their mamas went down the hill looking for them. Miss Lowell, she found Timothy right off, but Miss Pickett, she searched near half the night for Willem. Was he gone and crawled off the green before he died? Mama, hey mama,
Declaration Committee. Mr. Thompson.
Declaration by the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress Assembly. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve political bands which connect them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal stations to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights.
Jefferson, we're back, and we've got Maryland. That is, we will, as soon as Chase finishes telling the Maryland Assembly what we saw in New Brunswick.
He's in Annapolis right now describing a ragtag collection of provincial militiamen who couldn't train together, march together, or drill together. But when a flock of ducks flew overhead and they saw their first meal in 3 full days, good Lord, could they shoot together? Just slaughter!
They're reading the Declaration.
What? How far have they got?
To render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
Independent of and superior to.
Well, there's nothing to worry about. It's a masterpiece. I'm to be congratulated.
You?
For making him write it.
Ah, yes, of course.
It's a masterpiece, I say. They will cheer every word, every letter.
I wish I felt that way.
I believe I can put it better. Now then, attend as friend to friend our Declaration Committee. For us I see immortality in Philadelphia City. A farmer, a lawyer, and a sage, a bit gouty in the leg. You know it's quite bizarre to think that here we are, playing midwives to an egg.
Egg? What egg?
America, the birth of a new nation.
If only we could be sure what kind of a bird it's going to be.
Tom's got a point. What sort of a bird shall be the symbol of our new America?
The eagle.
The dove.
The turkey.
The eagle.
The dove.
The eagle.
The eagle.
The turkey.
The eagle is a proud and majestic bird.
The eagle is a coward, a scavenger, a thief, and a symbol of more than 10 centuries of European mischief.
And the turkey?
The turkey is a truly noble bird, a native of America, source of sustenance for our ancestors, and an incredibly brave fellow who would not flinch at attacking an entire regiment of Englishmen single-handedly. Therefore, the national bird of our new America shall be
the eagle.
The eagle.
We're waiting for the chirp, chirp, chirp
of an England being born. Waiting for the chirp, chirp, chirp on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator.
God knows the temperature's not enough to hatch a stone, let alone an egg.
We're waiting for the scratch, scratch, scratch of that tiny little fellow. Waiting for the egg to hatch on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator.
And knows the temperature's hot enough and to stop.
Will it hatch an egg?
This declaration will be a triumph, but I tell you, a triumph. If I was ever sure of anything, I'm sure of that. A triumph. And if it isn't, we still have 4 more days to think of something else. The eagle's going to hatch the shell of the egg that England laid.
Yes, sir, we can tell on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator.
And just as Tom here is written, the now, they belong to Great Britain. The eagle inside belongs to us.
And just as Tom here has written, we say to hell with Great Britain. The eagle inside belongs to us.
Establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Congress has now heard the report of the Declaration Committee. Are there any who wish to offer amendments, deletions, or alterations to the declaration?
Oh, yes.
Gentlemen, please. McNair, better open the window. Colonel McKeon, I saw your head first.
Tom, it's a bonny paper you've written there. But somewhere in it you've mentioned Scottish and foreign mercenaries sent to destroy us. Scottish, Tom.
It's in reference to a Highland regiment that stood against us at Boston.
Ah, it's more likely they were Germans wearing kilts. I ask to remove the word and avoid giving offense to a good people.
Mr. Jefferson?
The Reverend Witherspoon.
Mr. Jefferson, nowhere do you mention the Supreme Being. This must surely be an oversight, for how do you hope to achieve victory without his help? Therefore, may I humbly suggest this addition to your final sentence, with a firm reliance on the protection of the divine providence.
Mr. Reed. Among your charges against the king, Mr. Jefferson, you accuse him of depriving us of trial by jury. This is untrue, sir. In Delaware, we've always had trial by jury.
In Massachusetts, we have not.
Oh. Then I suggest the words, in many cases, be added.
Mr. Jefferson?
In many cases. Oh, brilliant. I suppose every time you see those three words, your puny little chest will puff with pride of your great historical contribution.
More memorable than your unprincipled whitewash of that race of barbarians.
Why, you!
Colonel McKeon, Mr. Reed, that's enough. Yes, Mr. Hopkins?
Oh, I have no changes, Johnny. I'm just trying to get a drink.
I should have known. Mr. McNair. Mr. Bartley.
Mr. Jefferson, I beg you to remember we still have friends in England. I see no point in antagonizing them with such phrases as unfeeling brethren and enemies in war. Our quarrel is with the British king, not the British people.
Be sensible, Bartlett. Remove those phrases and the entire paragraph loses all meaning. And it just so happens it is among the most stirring and poetic of any in the entire document. Why,
Mr. Adams, we're a Congress, not a literary society. I move the entire paragraph be stricken.
Mr. Jefferson?
Jefferson, when are you going to speak up for your own work?
I had hoped that the work would speak for itself.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. McNair?
I can't say I'm very fond of the United States of America as the name of a new country.
I don't care what you're fond of, Mr. McNair. You're not a member of this Congress. Mr. Sherman?
Brother Jefferson, I noticed two direct and distinct references to the British Parliament in your declaration. Do you think it's wise to offend such an august body in light of the contention that they've never had any direct authority over us anyway?
This is a revolution, damn it! We're going to have to offend somebody.
John, you're going to have an attack of apoplexy if you're not careful.
Have you heard what they're doing to it? Have you heard?
Yes, I have, John.
And so far, it's removed one of the F's from Jefferson's name.
Have courage, John. It won't last much longer.
Mr. Dickinson?
Mr. Jefferson, I have little interest in your paper, for I am sure that we have heard all but the last one. However, I do have one question. Why do you refer to King George as a tyrant?
Because he is a tyrant.
Might I remind you that this tyrant is still your king?
When a king becomes a tyrant, he thereby breaks the contract binding his subjects to him.
How so?
By taking away their rights.
Rights which initially came from him in the first place.
All except one. The right to be free comes from nature.
Here.
James, do we in Pennsylvania regard King George as a tyrant?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily put it like that. No, of course we don't think of him as a tyrant in Pennsylvania.
There you have it, Mr. Jefferson. Your declaration does not speak for all of us. I demand the word tyrant be removed.
Now, just a moment, Mr. Thompson. I do not consent. The king is a tyrant, whether we say so or not. We might as well say so.
But I already scratched it out.
Then scratch it back in.
Put it back, Mr. Thompson. The king will remain a tyrant. Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Jefferson, nowhere do you mention deep-sea fishing.
Oh, good God! Good God! Fishing rights? How much longer is this piddling to go on? We have been sitting here for 3 full days. We have endured, by my count, 85 separate changes and the removal of nearly 400 words. Would you whip and beat it till you break its spirit? I tell you, this declaration is a masterful expression of the American mind.
There are no more changes, and I can assume the report.
Just a moment, Mr. President.
Look out.
Mr. President, I wonder if I might prevail upon Mr. Thompson to read back a small portion of Mr. Jefferson's declaration. Going beginning, he has waged cruel war.
Mr. Thompson. Let's see.
He has affected, he has constrained, he has abdicated, he has combined, he has incited, he has here it is. He has waged cruel war. He has waged cruel war against human nature itself, and the persons of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying him into slavery in another hemisphere. Determined to keep open a market where men should be bought and sold, he has prostituted the...
That will suffice, Mr. Thompson. I thank you. Mr. Jefferson, I can't quite make out what it is you mean.
Slavery, Mr. Rowan.
Oh, I see. You're referring to us as slaves of the king.
No, sir. I'm referring to our slaves. To black slaves.
Oh, black slaves. Well, why didn't you just say so, Mr. Jefferson? Were you trying to hide your meaning?
No, sir.
Just another literary license, then.
If you like.
I don't like at all, Mr. Jefferson. To us in South Carolina, black slavery is our peculiar institution and cherished way of life.
Nevertheless, we must abolish it. Nothing is more certainly written in the Book of Fate than that this people shall be free.
I'm not concerned with what's written in the Book of Fate right now, sir. I'm more concerned with what's written in that little paper over there.
That little paper deals with freedom for Americans.
Oh, well, Mr. Adams over here is saying that our black slaves are Americans. Are they not?
They are. They're people, and they're here. If there's any other requirement, I've never heard of it.
They are here, yes, but they are not people. They are property.
No, sir, they are people being treated as property. I tell you, the rights of human nature are deeply wounded by this infamous practice.
Then see to your own wounds, Mr. Jefferson, for you are a practitioner, are you not?
I have already resolved to release my slaves.
Then I'm sorry, for you have also resolved the ruination of your personal economy.
Economy. Always economy. There's more to this than a filthy purse string, Rutledge. It is an offense against man and God.
really, Mr. Hopkins? Then what's that I smell floating down from and off? Could it be the aroma of hypocrisy? For who holds the other end of those filthy purse strings, Mr. Adams? Now, gentlemen, our northern brethren are feeling a bit tender towards our slaves. Well, they don't keep slaves, oh no, but they are willing to be considerable carriers of slaves to others. They are willing for the shilling. Or haven't you heard, Mr. Adams? Clink, clink. Molasses to rum to slaves. Oh, what a beautiful world. You dance with us, we dance with you in molasses and rum and slaves. Who sails the ships out of Boston, laden with Bibles and rum? Who drinks a toast to the Ivory Coast? Hail Africa, the slavers have come. New England with Bibles and rum. Then it's off with the rum and the Bibles. Take on the slaves, click, click. Then hail and farewell to the smell of the African coast. Molasses to rum to slaves. 'Tisn't morals, 'tis money that saves. Shall we dance to the sound of the prophet of the town in molasses and rum and slaves? Who sails the ships out of Guinea, laden with Bibles and slaves? His Boston can boast to the West Indies coast. Jamaica, we bring what ye bring. Antigua, Barbados, we bring Bibles and slaves. Gentlemen, you mustn't think our northern friends see our slaves merely as figures on lead. Oh no, sir, they see them as figures on the block. And the faces at the auction, white faces on the African wharves. Put them in the ships, stuff them in the ships, cram them in the ships. Hurry, gentlemen, let the auction begin. Yaha, yaha, Makunda. Gentlemen, do you hear? That's the cry of the auctioneer. Yaha, yaha, Makunda. Slaves, gentlemen, living gold, black gold, gold from Angola, Guinea, Guinea, Guinea. Blackbirds for sale, Ashanti, Igbo, 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 Igbo. Blackbirds for sale, handle them, fondle them, but don't finger them. They're prime, Yaha, Yaha, Makunda.
Oh, for the love of God, Mr. Rutledge, please!
Molasses to rum to slaves. Who sails the ships back to Boston, laden with gold? See it gleam. Whose fortunes are made in the triangle trade? Hail slavery, the New England dream. Mr. Adams, I drink you a toast. Hail Boston! Hail Charleston! Who Who stinketh the most?
Mr. Rutledge! Mr. Hughes! Dr. Hall!
Don't worry, John. They'll be back.
Aye, to vote us down.
It's done. Adams Franklin, I have it, and the Maryland Assemblies approved it. I told them about one of the greatest military engagements of all time against a flock of... Well, what's wrong? I thought you'd be thrilled.
Mr. Chase, you'll have to forgive them. It seems they've suffered a slight setback. For what has a man profited if he is to gain Maryland, not lose the entire South? Matthew chapter 16, verse 26.
Right there.
I know. It's wise.
No. You're wrong.
Well, what are you all sitting around for? We're wasting time, precious time. Thomas, I want you to go into Delaware and fetch back Caesar Rodney.
John, are you mad? It's 80 miles on horseback, and he's a dying man.
No, he's a patriot.
Well, what good will it do? The South has done us in.
And if they should change their mind, can you get Delaware without him?
God, what a bastardly bunch we are.
Hopkins!
I am going to the tavern, Johnny. If there's anything I can do for you there, you let me know.
Chase! Bartlett!
What's the use, John? The vote's tomorrow morning.
There's less than a full day left.
Roger.
Face facts, John. It's finished.
I'm sorry, John.
We've no choice, John. The slavery clause has to go.
What? What are you saying?
It's a luxury we can't afford.
A luxury? 500,000 souls in chains? And Dr. Franklin calls it a luxury? Perhaps you should have walked out with the rest of the South.
You forget yourself, sir. I founded the first anti-slavery society on this continent.
Don't wave your credentials at me, Franklin. Perhaps it's time you renewed them.
The issue here is independence. Perhaps you have lost sight of that, but I have not. How dare you jeopardize our cause when we've come so far? These men, as much as we may disagree with them, are not ribbon clerks to be ordered about. They're proud, accomplished men, the cream of their colonies. And whether you like it or not, they and the people they represent will be a part of the country you'd hope to create. Either start learning to live with them or pack up and go home. And in any case, stop acting like a Boston fishwife.
Good God. What's become of me? John Adams, the great John Adams, wise man of the East. My law practice down the pipes, my farm mortgaged to the hilt. At a time in life when other men prosper, I am reduced to this, living in Philadelphia. Philadelphia! Oh, Abigail, what am I going to do?
Do, John?
I need your help.
You don't usually ask for my advice.
Yes, well, there doesn't seem to be anyone else here at the moment.
Very well, John. What is it?
The entire South has walked out of this Congress. General Washington's army stands on the verge of annihilation. The precious cause which I have labored these several years has come to nothing. And it seems I am obnoxious in this light.
Nonsense, John.
But I am unwilling to face reality.
Foolishness, John.
But I am pig-headed.
Ah, I'm afraid you have me there, John. You are pig-headed.
Has it been any kind of a life for you, Abby? God knows I haven't given you much.
I've never asked for more. After all, I am Mrs. John Adams. That's quite enough for one lifetime.
Is it, Abby?
Think of it, John. To be married to the man who was first in line to be hanged.
The agitator. You must tell me what it is, Abby. I've always been dissatisfied. I know that. But lately I reek of discontentment. It floods my mind, clogs my throat, and I'm afraid there's no longer a dream, only the discontent.
Oh, John, how can you know so little of yourself? And how can you think so little of me to believe that I've married the man you described? Have you forgotten what you used to say to me, John? I haven't. Commitment, Abby, commitment. There are only two creatures of value on the face of this earth. Those with a commitment, and those who require the commitment of others. You remember, John?
Mr. Adams!
What?
These are for you.
Well, what are they? What's in them? Who sent them?
Still from Massachusetts, John. You know where I stand. I'll do whatever you say.
No. President of the Congress, Hancock, a fair man. Stay that way. Out of curiosity, Mr. Thompson, where do you stand on this issue? Are you with Mr. Dickinson or myself?
I stand with the General. Lately, I've had the oddest feeling. He's been writing to me. I have been in expectation of receiving a reply on the subject of my last 15 dispatches. Is anybody there? Does anybody humble and obedient.
Are you hungry, John?
No, I'll stay.
Good night, then.
Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? They want me to quit. They say, John, give up the fight. Still to England I say, good night, forever good night. For I have crossed the river. Let the bridge be burning. I become what may of one may. Commitment, the brokers all say, the day they'll be held to a fiery purgatory. All the blue, I can see the rays of ravishing light and glory. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? I see fireworks. I see the pageant and on that ring. I hear the bells ringing out. I hear the cannon roar. I see Americans, all Americans free how silent the chamber is, how quiet the chamber is. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see?
Yes, Miss Adams, I do.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Hall. I
didn't
didn't.
mean to startle you while I couldn't sleep. In trying to resolve my dilemma, I remembered something I'd once read, that a representative owes the people not only his industry, but his judgment. And he betrays them if he sacrifices it to their opinion. It was written by Edmund Burke, a member of the British Parliament.
Thank you for coming, Caesar. And God bless you, sir. The Secretary will call the roll, and I'd remind you, gentlemen, that a single nay vote will defeat the motion. Mr. Secretary.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire votes yea.
New Hampshire says yea. Massachusetts.
Massachusetts votes yea.
Massachusetts votes yea. Rhode Island.
Rhode Island says yea.
Rhode Island votes yea. Connecticut.
Connecticut votes yea.
Connecticut says yea. New York.
New York abstains courteously.
New York abstains.
Courteously.
New Jersey.
New Jersey votes yea.
New Jersey says yea. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania's not ready yet. Come back to us later.
Pennsylvania passes. Delaware.
Delaware, by majority vote,
Aye.
says yay.
Well done, sir.
Delaware says yea. Maryland.
Maryland says yea.
Maryland says yea. Virginia.
Virginia says yea.
Virginia says yea. North Carolina.
North Carolina yields to South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Well, Mr. Adams,
Yes, Mr. Rutledge.
Mr. Adams, you must believe that I will do as I have promised to do.
What do you want, Rutledge?
Remove the offended passage.
But if we do that, we will be guilty of the same things we're rebelling against.
Nevertheless, Mr. Adams, remove the passage or South Carolina will bury now and forever your dream of independence.
John, I beg you to consider what you're doing.
Franklin, if we give in on this issue, posterity will never forgive us.
That may be true, but we won't hear a word of it. We'll be long gone by then. And besides, what will posterity think we were anyway? Demigods? We're men. No more, no less, trying to get a country started against greater odds than a more generous God would have allowed. But first things first, John. Independence. America. For if we do not secure that, what difference will the rest make?
Well, Jefferson, do something.
What else is there to be done?
I don't know, man. You're the one who wrote it.
I wrote all of it, Mr. Adams.
There! You had your precious slavery, and little good may it do you. Now vote, damn you!
Mr. President, the fair colony of South Carolina says yay.
South Carolina says yea.
North Carolina says yay.
North Carolina says yea. Georgia.
Georgia says yay.
Georgia says yea. Pennsylvania. Second call.
Mr. President, Pennsylvania regrets the inconvenience that such distinguished men as Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson were put to just. They might have kept their little document intact for whatever difference that will make. Mr. President, Pennsylvania says...
Just a moment, Mr. President. I ask that the delegation be polled.
Dr. Franklin, don't be ridiculous.
A poll, Mr. President. It's a proper request.
Yes, it is. Hold the delegation, Mr. Thompson.
Dr. Benjamin Franklin.
Yea.
Mr. John Dickinson.
Nay.
Mr. James Wilson. Judge Wilson.
There you have it, Mr. Wilson. It's all up to you now. The entire question of American independence lies squarely on your shoulders. Which will it be, Mr. Wilson? An entirely new nation, waiting to be born or to die in birth, all on your say-so. Which will it be, Mr. Wilson? Mapmakers around the world are waiting for your decision.
Come now, James, nothing has changed. It's not let Dr. Franklin create one of his confusions. The question is clear.
Most questions are clear when someone else has to decide them.
It would be a pity for a man who has handed down hundreds of wise decisions from the bench to be remembered only for one unwise decision made in the Congress.
James, you're keeping everyone with you. The secretary has called for your vote.
Don't rush me, John. I know what it is that you want me to do. But Mr. Adams is right about one thing. I am the one who will be remembered for it.
What are you talking about?
I'm not like you, John. I'm not like most of the men here. I don't want to be remembered. I just don't want that responsibility.
Well, there's no way of avoiding that now.
Not necessarily. If I vote with them, I'll be one among dozens. No one will ever remember the name of James Wilson. But if I vote with you, I will be remembered forever as the man who stopped American independence. I'm sorry, John, but I just didn't bargain for that.
And this is how new nations are formed. A non-entity trying to preserve the anonymity he so justly deserves.
Revolutions come into this world like bastard children, Mr. Dickinson. Half improvised and half compromised. Our side has provided the compromise. Now Judge Wilson is supplying the rest.
James!
I'm sorry, John, but my vote is yay.
Pennsylvania says yay. The vote being 12-0 with one abstention, Virginia's resolution on independence is adopted.
It's done. It's done.
Is the declaration ready to be signed?
It is.
And I suggest we do so. The chair further proposes, for our mutual security and protection, that no man be allowed to sit on this Congress without attaching his name to it.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I cannot in good conscience sign such a document. I will never stop hoping for our eventual reconciliation with England. However, because in my own way I regard America no less than John Adams, I will join the Continental Army and fight in her defense, though I know the fight to be hopeless. Goodbye, gentlemen.
Members of the Congress, I say ye John Dickinson.
Very well, gentlemen. Are there any objections to the declaration being approved as it now stands?
I have one, Mr. President.
You, Mr. Adams?
Oh, sit down.
Yes. Mr. Jefferson, it just so happens that the word is unalienable, not inalienable.
I'm sorry, Mr. Adams. Inalienable is correct.
Mr. Jefferson, I am a Harvard graduate.
And I attended William and Mary, Mr. Adams.
Gentlemen, Mr. Jefferson, will you yield to Mr. Adams' request?
No, sir, I will not.
Very well, I'll withdraw it.
Good for you, John.
I'll speak with the printer about it later.
Very well, gentlemen. We're about to brave the storm on a skiff made of paper. And where it ends, God only knows.
That's quite a big signature you're doing there, John Hancock.
So fat George in London can read it without his glasses. Come, gentlemen, step right up. Don't miss your chance to commit treason.
Hancock's got a point. This paper is our passport to the gallows. But But there's no backing out now, for if we do not hang together, we shall most assuredly hang separately.
Well, really, in my case, hanging won't be so bad. One snap, it'll be over just like that. But look at Reed here. He'll be dancing with Jane long after I'm gone.
Gentlemen, forgive me if I don't join in the merriment, but if we're arrested right now, my name is still the only one on the damn
From the Commander, Army of the United Colonies, Army of the United States, in New York, dispatch number 1209. To the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President. Dear Sir, I can now report with some certainty that the eve of battle in New York is near at hand. Towards this end, I have ordered the evacuation of Manhattan and directed our defenses to take up stronger positions on the Brooklyn Heights. At the present time, my forces consist entirely of Essex, Delaware militia, and Smallwood Marylanders, a total of 5,000 troops to stand against 25,000 of the enemy. And I begin to notice that many of them are lads under 15 and old men, none of whom could truly be called soldiers. One personal note to Mr. Lewis Morris of New York. I must regretfully report that his estates have been totally destroyed, but that I have taken the liberty of transporting Mrs. Morris and 8 of the children to Connecticut in safety. The 4 older boys are now enlisted in the Continental Army. As I write these words, the enemy is plainly in sight beyond the river. How it will end, only Providence can direct. But dear God, what brave men I shall lose before this business ends. Your obedient, G. Washington.
McNair, go ring the bell.
Mr. President, to hell with New York. I'll sign it.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Stephen, sit down.
No, sir. I want to see every man's face as he signs it.
Very well. Mr. Thompson?
New Hampshire, Dr. Josiah Barton. Massachusetts, Mr. John Adams. Rhode Island, Mr. Stephen Hopkins. Connecticut, Mr. Roger Sherman. New York, Mr. Lewis Morris. New Jersey, Reverend Jonathan Witherspoon. Pennsylvania, Dr. Benjamin Franklin. Delaware, Mr. Caesar